Hey everyone, welcome to week 44. This is day 3. This is Wednesday, our ongoing atmosphere week. So we've painted basically two lighting conditions that are somewhat similar. One from yesterday that is very low lit, and we had like a single accent of saturation that was very, very nice. We constructed the whole painting based on that little lit cigarette. Today, we're going to speak about openness. So, atmosphere through openness. We'll see how we do. Okay, let's get started. This is Wednesday. This is day 3. This is our ongoing atmosphere week. This week, remember, we've kind of built upon two paintings or two of the lessons that we learned from two of the paintings that we did last week. I think that this is super, super important. And I want to emphasize this. Many times when we paint, we put all the weight of the painting on how effective it is in the end. We ultimately judge a painting by what it is, that final image that is painted on that surface. And that seems pretty obvious. You know, a painting should be judged as a painting, right? But when a painting is understood as a part, as a small gear in this bigger exchange that's taking place between you and the act of painting, then perhaps the value of that painting can be reinterpreted, where we can actually discover nuances that may be invisible to us if the only thing we're doing is judging it by how effective it is or how happy we are with the painting at the end. So what I try to tell people is that try to separate yourself a little bit, and I know this is super, super hard, but just try to take a few steps back and look at your painting as the conjunction of all these acts that came together in order for this painting to be. And one of those things that's super important during the act of painting is where we reflect upon the choices that we've made. And I think that this is an integral part of this project. If we weren't doing that, then this would be painful. Honestly, just painting day after day, it would be a little bit painful. It would be a little bit boring for you guys. It would be exhausting for sure. But when every single painting, it doesn't matter how good it is or how bad it is, it doesn't matter how it effectively was able to reproduce your intent, or it doesn't matter if you went into a tangent and eventually the painting that ended up being was not at all close to what you intended originally. It doesn't matter. None of those things matter. What matters is the willingness to stand back and question what happened during the act of painting. You know, why is it that we took certain decisions and the effect they had ultimately on the painting, on the final image? In that sense, I have to say that is one of the key aspects of being able to do this day in and day out. It's not really a matter of just sitting down and painting and hoping a painting sells. No, not at all. If our channel was built on that superficiality, there honestly would be no reason for me to sit down and paint. The one thing that I'm eager to experience every single day is the possibility to learn something that I didn't know about myself and about painting. And that is the most enjoyable part. And that's where this idea of openness and of a lighting condition in terms of aspects that are hierarchical in our image being so relevant that it actually kind of washes off some of the specificities that are part of form. That's where those two big ideas came together. And I recognized that those were integral parts of the idea of atmosphere. So again, we're building from paintings that we've done in the past, trying to recognize and focus in on those specific aspects. And if we emphasize them, then we realize that they are going to be very close to an idea of, in this case, during this week, atmosphere. So that's how we got here. On Monday, with Fer's painting, we concentrated on a very specific lighting condition. This beam of cool light emanating from below. It almost looks like the Lost Hatch. By the way, Danny and I rewatched it all. It's such a wonderful show. I mean, it takes such a dive last couple of seasons, but those first seasons are amazing. But anyways, side note over. So we have this really cool light. And instead of just thinking that we're painting Fer, like it's a portrait of Fer, that is being lit by this tablet light that's coming from below. No, it's actually a painting about light. In a way, think that Fer just happens to be in light's way. And light is going to end up describing and is almost swallowing up all the information that we would associate fed with, the features are actually washed out. So it's actually really cool. In that sense, if we prioritize light, we realize that we have to sacrifice certain things. And what we've sacrificed in that painting on Monday was the idea of specificity, of trying to break down form into smaller planes that would enable us to speak about the intricacies of the shapes that compose and configure Feda's portrait in the end. That coupled with the idea of openness. And it's cool if we understand openness as this almost avoidance of trying to enclose form. So instead of acknowledging all the limits between different types of forms, instead of imposing this idea of contour, we are not denominating things, and we are just simply looking at painting as a mass of color. There's no frontiers, there's no delimitations that would obligate color to exclusively describe certain shapes. No, instead, color can actually flow freely through the painting, and it wouldn't matter what we are painting. So it's almost like divorcing ourselves from the subject matter that is being described, and just understanding that there's this very thick air that enables colors to travel from form to form to form. Color doesn't need to go through customs. It has free access to every single area of the painting. Now, while I'm describing these two concepts, the idea of openness and of a lighting condition being hierarchical, where if we pay attention to it, we sacrifice the smallness of form, I immediately and almost inevitably think about Zorn. And obviously, Zorn is one of the greatest painters ever. We really need time and space to correctly, I think, contextualize the value of a painter, even though we all acknowledge, Zorn is part of this holy trinity of Sargent, Zorn, and Sorolla, and almost every single painter out there acknowledges the fact that they are some of the most amazing painters ever. I think eventually we will realize, Zorn will be as good as Velázquez. Eventually, again, given enough time, we will be able to understand how impactful of a painter he really, really was. One of the things that is just remarkable about Zorn, and this is almost like a game I play whenever I look at a Zorn painting, is that I usually don't concentrate on the thing that's supposed to be important that he's painting. There's always going to be kind of like a center of interest in a painting, like an exclamation point, and your eye is supposed to go there. That place could be anything. It could be a portrait or just a beam of light or a moment of contrast. It could be anything. We don't have to denominate it. But what I always try to do, and I try to do this especially, in a Zorn painting or in a Velázquez painting or in a Sargent painting or in a Sorolla painting or in a Ramon Casas painting, all these brilliant painters that had this amazing ability to understand the wholeness of an image. What I do is I kind of travel through the periphery of the painting. I always go to the places that are secondary. And those places tend to be absolutely essential for the construction of the painting. If it wasn't for those places, which, by the way, don't get any of the credit they rightfully deserve, and the flashy areas of the painting usually are the ones that get all the attention, but all these other areas that are working incredibly hard just to be almost invisible, just to be air around whatever is important, are so magical to me. I mean, I adore them. I'm the sort of person that when I would go to a children's presentation, it could be like any of my kids' Christmas show. I never pay attention to the girl that's singing. She deserves all the praise. Like, she can have an amazing voice. God bless that girl. She's incredible. But I always look at the kids that are in the back. Don't want the attention, but they have to be there. Or if you're in a school play and you are the tree, you're tree number 3. I love you. You are so essential to everything, tree number 3. You are incredible. You deserve all the praise that all these superstars are getting also. Again, that's just me. It's a dumb way of explaining that I love to look at areas of the painting that apparently are not important. But to me, every single moment of a painting is important. And especially the way I think of painting is I think that every single bit of color, because that's what painting is, it's just a mark of color, is actually right next to another mark of color. They actually sit in a same plane. Let's not overcomplicate this and say that, but there's glazing and there's layers of painting, so they're not literally in the same plane. I know that. But if you think of a painting, as a single plane where, all these relationships of color are taking place, then every bit of color is as important as every other bit of color. All of them are important. All of them are relevant to the painting. You take one of those away and everything collapses. That's how I see painting. You can't just extract one thing, however important it may seem, however beautiful it may be. You can't just separate it from the rest of the painting, because then the whole painting just crumbles down. That's why I love Zorn's paintings, because every single moment that is, again, in the periphery of whatever it is that is supposed to grab your attention in the painting, to me is everything. That is painting. That is the beautiful part of painting. Everything that's working really hard so that one moment can actually be incredible. So if you guys want to do that exercise with me, just look at any Velázquez painting, any Zorn painting, any Sargent painting, and just look at everything else that's not the portrait, for example. The portrait, the hands, the dress, those are all beautiful. Those are all fine. And look really hard at how that was painted and try to gauge how those moments of painting, however simple or abstract they may be, are affecting the idea that you have of that big painting, the bigness of that painting, the wholeness of that painting. And you're going to love those moments so, so much. And they become yours. You almost become like attached to these tiny little simple moments of a painting that you feel nobody else is looking at. Of course, everyone else is looking at those moments also, but they kind of feel your own, like you're discovering all these little secrets that are embedded in a painting. So I always feel that's a wonderful exercise. So back to this painting. What I wanted from this painting was that Danny in this doorway would feel like a figure feels in a Zorn painting. I want to paint a figure that belongs to the background of a Zorn painting. I wanted this painting to be one of those secondary figures. Secondary, I mean, I'm sort of imposing that word on him because I'm almost entirely sure that for him, every single moment of a painting was magic. So I want them to feel like those moments of a painting that actually surround the exclamation point of the painting. That's what I wanted to paint, because I think that those moments, especially in a Zorn painting, in a Velázquez painting, those moments are drenched with atmosphere. And those moments exemplify beautifully the two things that we're concentrating on throughout this week. So it was just this perfect opportunity to say, that's what we're going to do. And honestly, I really liked today's painting. I think that today's painting is going to affect tomorrow's painting and Friday's painting, because it's almost impossible for it not to do it. When you kind of hit upon something that you go like, yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for, and it works, you realize, yeah, I want to search for this a little bit more. And by searching for something, I mean, I want to do a painting where I emphasize this aspect a little bit more tomorrow. And that's why it's so exciting to paint, because honestly, it is exciting. Like, painting can be so freaking exciting every single day. When you make like little discoveries, and they don't have to be these big things. You don't have to revolutionize painting. They just have to be important for you. If you discover those things, it is so exciting to go back to painting and to try and find them again. You're almost like a scientist trying to prove something, trying to replicate the same result of this experiment. And many times it's frustrating because we're like, oh, I got it. And you try to put it to test with another painting and you're completely lost again. So it can be so frustrating because you think you're getting so close to understanding something and suddenly it's gone. But that's painting. Welcome to painting. That's our life. And that's going to be the rest of our life. That feeling is never, ever going to change. By the way, I love to do these parentheses when I'm doing these voiceovers. When I was looking for Zorn paintings, I actually found a reproduction of a painting that I was familiar with it, but I don't think I've ever paid too much attention to it. But it's this painting. It just immediately reminded me of Andrew Wyeth's paintings of Helga. And the obvious reason would be the braided pigtails. But it was amazing how a lighting condition can just immediately refer to you to two very, very different ways of portraying a same feeling. I'm not saying it's the same painting at all. The exchange, the emotional exchange that Zorn had with the woman that he was painting, it was not quite the same as the evident emotional exchange that was part of Andrew Wyeth's and Helga's exchange. That one ran a lot deeper than just kind of painting this beautiful lighting condition. I just love that there are these two moments of light that can completely connect two paintings, only then to realize that these two artists are so different and solved things in such different ways. And it's funny because there are things that tie them. I mean, Zorn was one of the best watercolorists ever. I mean, I saw a show in New York of Zorn's watercolors. Oh my God. I know that I will die someday, and I will never have experienced something as beautiful as what I saw that day when I saw those watercolors. I mean, just seeing them all together and just seeing the mastery that he has over this medium, it was just insane. I was like, how is a human being capable of saying that through watercolor? That's crazy. I mean, if you want to be a purist about it, it wasn't, traditional watercolor. He was mixing a lot of white with his watercolors. So it was more of a watercolor gouache kind of mixed technique. It doesn't matter. I mean, that doesn't make it any easier. What he did was honestly as masterful as you could ever execute a watercolor. So Zorn was that, and Andrew Wyeth was obviously one of the most talented people to have ever worked in watercolors. It could either be just very traditional watercolor or like dry brush watercolor painting, but he was untouchable. I mean, his watercolor paintings are just treasures of the art world. So it's so amazing that these two people can understand themselves as painters, Wyeth doing this, very tight tempera painting, and Zorn doing this very open oil painting, and both of them kind of meeting in the middle with watercolors, and yet convey completely different feelings through their work. And their subject matter can be close. These two paintings, like I said, they are reminiscent of each other, but that doesn't mean that they feel the same. They are just this one point in time where the both of them met, but that's about it. So that's where subject matter can be a little confusing, I would say. I mean, it could be wonderful to see when there's a congruence between two painters. But, if you dig in a little deeper, you realize, wow, these paintings can have a lot in common, but they actually speak about very different things. So I thought that was really wonderful. So that's going to be it for today. A small painting, but a perfect pretext to think about Zorn and to think about one of the most wonderful things that I love about Zorn, which again is everything that is not the most important part of a Zorn painting. So as a small advice, small bit of homework, if you will, try to look at or even copy, if you want, areas of Zorn paintings, of Velázquez paintings, Sargent paintings that don't seem relevant. Just paint moments where you feel, wow, that's a great bit of painting, but it's like nothing, it's just this little bit of the background, but that's it. Try to paint those things as a way of giving respect to them, as a way of saying, yeah, those moments are so important to painting that they deserve my attention. Or if you don't want to copy them, just look at them, really reflect upon them instead of just looking at what is most evident about the painting. So I think that you'll have a ton of discoveries when you do that. Anyways, that was it for today. I thought this was a really cool painting. I thought this was a visual reminder that we are going in the right direction, if you will. And in the same way that we can honor those secondary moments of Zorn paintings, I have to honor all the good things that happened today by hopefully trying to echo some of the cool things that happened today in tomorrow's painting and in Friday's painting. So that was it for today. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Bye.